Christian, thank you so much for delivering such a compelling presentation.
Thank you.
Um, you know, how did you get involved in visualizing data?
Well, I started as an economist initially, and my job as right out of grad school was to produce or help produce reports for senior executives and senior government officials. They'd always end up being 500-page tomes, which, let's be honest, no one reads.
Sure.
So what I tried to do was to condense the most salient material into data visualizations and into infographics that are easily digestible for policymakers. And then that would allow them to actually make decisions without loss of fidelity for that data. So that's about 5 years ago. And then throughout my career, I've always tried to make data visualization central because I've always been involved in data. So I've tried to make it a centerpiece of what I do. And now I'm actually studying it in a formal way. So I've just always had an interest in making compelling stories with data.
Sure. Well, I mean, it clearly shows, and you're quite talented,
Thank you.
Especially from the design perspective. I feel like these
Yes.
are like so aesthetically compelling data graphics. Can you tell me a little bit more about like how long it's taken you to develop this expertise and, kind of what tools you use?
That's a really great question. So in terms of the length of time, I feel like I'm still on a learning path. So I'm not where I want to be as yet. But it's taken me about 5 years to get to this stage. I started with Excel, just making simple bar charts and visualizations
Absolutely.
in Excel. And then I slowly graduated to Tableau, which is a really diverse and versatile tool that allows you to do some standard visualizations like bar charts and pie charts. But it also allows you, if you're really daring, to do things like Sankey diagrams, things like joy plots, things like bump charts. So I really, developed a keen appetite for, how can I make this visualization more compelling, but also do it in a way with using a visual that is not common, that is unusual, but that makes a story resonate more than a bar chart. Not that I hate bar charts, but
Right.
there's more to data visualization than bar charts and pie charts. What I'm trying to do now is to develop the talent to do more of this in a web-based format. So as we saw with my presentation, I used D3 as one element. And D3 is one of the most powerful JavaScript-based libraries that allows you to produce data visualizations. It allows you a lot more flexibility in terms of, color, the visual language of color, the visual language of shapes. So it allows you a lot more flexibility than even Tableau in most cases. And so I'm really interested in learning how to use web technologies to deliver data visualizations in a really interesting way for mass audiences.
That's amazing. And so you mentioned D3. So how does that work for situations where you might be working, say, with a client? Is D3 a solution for that? Since it's web-based, would all the data be open to the public? What happens if it's proprietary data? Do you make different decisions based on the tools?
Sure. Given my presentation, that's an excellent question. Security is always top of mind. So yes, D3 allows you to provide these, we call them applications. They are applications. And there's a variety of tools and libraries that you can use to make that data secure. You can restrict permissions so that you tailor it to the audience that you want to view it. If it is a case of proprietary data, obviously you're not going to provide that as an open URL for a global audience. But in my experience, in my work so far as a freelance data visualization enthusiast, I've used public data sets, and so I find that works as well. The web technology behind E3 allows you to store large data sets and also to provide that to any audience that you decide to.
That's really a helpful point of clarification. I want to go back to the spiral chart because
Sure.
I thought you did such an excellent job in your presentation where
Thank you.
you actually explain the different elements of such a complex chart, which we talk a lot about in the class. When you show something that's complex, you need to explain it. So can you tell me a little bit about your thought process about how you thought about how you'd explain that to the audience here today?
Absolutely. So spiral charts are not a common chart type, but they are a very useful chart type if you want to show something on a timeline, and also if you want to save space, because here we were dealing with a 15-year data set It could have been a longer data set, but I chose a 15-year sort of time window. And so if I'd made a different decision, it would have involved a lot of scrolling, right? Whereas I wanted to have the audience capture the full picture, the full breadth of this timeline in one view.
Sure.
And the spiral chart does that very effectively without, again, loss of fidelity, because for this particular issue, you're dealing with a variance of between 500 million to a billion records versus maybe a couple 100,000. So scaling is also a consideration that factors into how this data is displayed. And so what I tried to do was to scale that data so that even small breaches are as apparent as large breaches, but you still get a sense of the scale of how large and how severe these breaches were.
Well, absolutely, right, from the size of the bubbles.
Right, exactly.
So I have one last question for
Sure.
you. What piece of advice would you give our students when embarking on the visualization of data?
So my advice, and this is advice I got from one of my professors, is to always have a plan. And that is something. It could be as simple as just asking yourself really simple questions about your data set. What is it that I'm asking this data set? What is it that I expect to get out of this data set? What do I do if I don't have, if the results don't match up to my expectations? Am I trying to just confirm something, or am I trying to make a compelling rhetorical argument? You can ask as many questions as you would like. There's, of course, a methodology to follow to get to an objective empirical answer. But my simple advice is to always have a plan. And if things change your plan, but always have a plan.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Christian, for sharing your practice with us today.
Yes, thank you. I'm always happy to share and learn.